Welcome in, everybody. Episode 3 of the Blogger Bowl. Today is our Pac-12 preview. Dan's got his Pac-12 Bite On shirt. Phil's got the Holy Cross one rocking. I'm wearing my Illinois Wesleyan. Phil and I didn't even talk. We just both decided to rep the alma mater on the show today. Dan has got his home field apparel as always. Home field, if you want to sponsor us, right here waiting for you.
I will be repping my alma mater on tomorrow's show.
I cannot wait for that. Big teaser there. If you don't follow Dan on Twitter, you would never know who it is.
Well, you're only two more Power 5, so you got a 50-50 shot of guessing which conference at least.
I very much wish that we could have because I can see the screen that you guys on camera when the intro is playing in, and Dan is just rocking out to the drums during that intro, and I love it. I wish we can kind of get like a little person in person going on there. Unfortunately, on StreamYard, I don't think we have that technology yet, but that's okay. We're going with the Pac-12 today, and I think there's only one logical place to start. It's been the story of not only the Pac-12,
Colorado.
Exactly. Can Colorado win 3 games this year? That's a teaser. We'll get to that. We're going to go to Southern California, where Lincoln Riley has taken over a brand new gig. And I got to be honest with you, fellas, I don't think this is that hot of a take or that surprising of one, I should say. Maybe with the hat, you might think, why does he think this? I'm happy USC is back. Like I am genuinely happy that USC is. They're not fully back yet, but they're on pace. They're starting to recruit at that elite level again. They're probably going to get back there in the next couple of years. Notre Dame is a team that always at the beginning of the year has a difficult schedule on paper. A lot of that time is because USC is ranked, middling in the top 25 and has high expectations because they're Southern Cal. And then by the time Notre Dame plays them, they're terrible. So the win doesn't really count for anything, and it goes towards the soft schedule narrative. Notre Dame needs USC to be back. So I am happy USC is back to bolster my team's schedule. Maybe they lose that game a few more times, but I'm happy to see them back because I think that's going to go back to counting as a big win, because I think we're going to get to it with Phil's best bet later, but USC might not be fully back this year, but they will be in the next 5. I think they'll be a playoff team at some point, right?
The Big Ten's only,
It's still so weird.
I'm just excited to see USC play like Washington in the Rose Bowl in a few years.
It's going to be so annoying. Can we just once that happens, and what's it, 2024, where USC and UCLA make the move? Whatever it is, one or two more years, whatever it is. The Rose Bowl should still keep the old rules. Hey, I get it. USC and UCLA are in the Big 12 or Big 10 now, but you still count as a Pac-12 team in our eyes. So your bowl eligibility is still based off Pac-12 record. So you can be the Pac-12 representative in the Rose Bowl as a Big 10 member. We're fine with it because I can't do that.
How weird is it going to be to see again USC at Northwestern, but like Southern Cal, Pat Fitzgerald. just like him popping the top and wearing some sunglasses.
This is now the second consecutive day we've talked about the hypothetical USC Northwestern matchup.
I can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be so great. But I guess to this year's USC team on the field, I'm not surprised that they're getting so bet up. I mean, their win total is now at 9.5. They're I think the 5th or 6th favorite on FanDuel and all these sites to win a national championship, because they just keep getting bet up, and FanDuel has to adjust the odds. But they're not winning anything they'll compete for a Pac-12 championship this year. I don't think they're going to win it. I get they're talented. They got a great quarterback. They got a head coach who knows how to win offensive shootouts and then lose games that are, tough, hard-fought games a lot of the times where they get bullied. He loses those, but they're gonna be a good team, but they're not gonna be that good, right? It's like a 9-3 type team for me, 8-4.
Yeah, and it's curious if this is what type of super team you get. Are you getting the LeBron James Heat super team, or are you getting the 2021 Nets and Lakers super team, where it's are you just throwing a bunch of elite talent in the same room and hey, this is gonna work out, or is it or is it gonna take some time to get some continuity with a new staff and all new players, and also not addressing a bottom of the barrel defense from last year? Obviously they brought in some more talent, but the defense isn't suddenly just going to be awesome, right?
You can, Dan, you're shaking your head. Why don't you take this one?
This was a team that was really bad on defense. One of the worst teams, I think, ranked in the hundreds in SP plus. They were, let me look at my numbers real quick, 117th in EPA per play defense last year. Really bad on defense, and I don't think Alex Grinch is necessarily a home run hire at the defensive coordinator. He's had ups and downs, like his Ohio State teams were fine. Oklahoma was up and down defensively at times under him. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to come and make them immediately a top 30, top 40 defense in year one. They were also not great on the offensive line last year. And I mean, that to me is another area in which if you're going to turn things around quickly at a program, that is something that can help you a lot, is having an offensive line that's reliable, and they don't have it. Caleb Williams is phenomenally talented. I also think Caleb Williams came on the scene last year, had the game against Texas where he came off the bench and was awesome, had that crazy play. Sorry. I mean, his Heisman candidacy was kind of built upon a play against Kansas, which is kind of strange, but like he had that play. There's like an it factor there. But man, he's a guy who there's a lot of room to grow as a quarterback. And now that's a good thing because he's a 5-star and a guy who was pretty good and very raw and still put up big numbers and made big plays, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that he's going to just be absolutely incredible. Like progression's not always linear, but he's an unbelievable talent, and Jordan Addison is awesome. So it's like, this is going to be a team they've got talent, but they're going to need a year or two. Like, to me, USC to win the Pac-12, USC to make the playoff, Caleb Williams to win the Heisman are all going to be things that I'd be much more interested in betting next year than I am right now. And I mean, they're going to be fun to watch. And look, they're going to, because they're not necessarily going to be great defensively, they're going to be some games that are going to be shootouts. They're going to be an over team. And I don't know if I'm jumping anyone's gun here, but could there be a more fun spot for us just to look ahead right now in this conference at all, point blank period, than September 17th at 10:30 Eastern, USC hosting Fresno State in a non-conference absolute banger? Not like those two teams haven't played notable games in the past. Of course, Reggie Bush won Vince Young's Heisman Trophy by torching an 8-4 Fresno State team. So these teams have played memorable games in the past.
The shoe is still on the field.
But I mean, even like Stanford is a team who I'm not big on Stanford, but Stanford's playing them at home, and Stanford, they've got a lot back, and it's going to be an interesting game. So like, Rice is not a team that's going to push them, but we're going to learn a lot. Like we talked about in a lot of our previews yesterday and the last 2 days, like early games in the season where we're going to learn some things about some teams. Like Stanford, is that salvageable? Or is the David Shaw thing coming to an end? In USC, like if USC comes out and just absolutely puts a beat down on Stanford, it's like, okay, this is going to be something that you're going to have to watch, like maybe immediately. But if they struggle even in that game, and then Fresno State, like that, it's a lot to ask. Oregon State's not going to be a pushover in Corvallis. Like Oregon State was a weird home and away team last year, like really good at home, not an easy place to play. Like, and then obviously we haven't even gotten into what happens when they have to go play Utah, but man, it's going to be a challenge for them because their defense isn't great, and it's going to be fun though because they're going to put up points.
Yeah, like you talked about the tricky road spots in the Pac-12. I feel like every road spot in the Pac-12 is tricky. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm always watching, Pac-12 After Dark, and they're like the only game still on. But I feel like every big time Pac-12 contender that goes into a sleepy night game at a Pac-12 place like Oregon State ends up struggling with that. So those two games early on, like, is Stanford good at football? No, but David Shaw's brand of football, they're going to line up, they're going to put like 8 offensive linemen out there and two running backs and just run the ball right at you.
Yeah, I mean, Stanford's bringing 10 starters back on offense this year, and their offense stunk last year. But like, people think that Tanner McKee's got some potential, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like if and those are the types of games too that Lincoln Riley has struggled with at Oklahoma. The ones where he kind of gets bullied. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go on.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right there. Like, Stanford's not a good team. I don't think they're a good offense. I hate watching it. Like, I think David Shaw should have left for the NFL 5 years ago when the iron was hot there. But like, if USC struggles against Stanford's offense, then it's like, okay, this is going to take some time. Like, I don't think they're going to struggle offensively much at all this year, USC. But when you can't get stops regularly, it increases the variance in your potential win total.
But isn't Lincoln Riley used to having just a really strong defense and holding stout in some of those games? That's
what Dan touched on it too. Like, everyone's saying he brought Alex Grinch with him, and that's such a great hire. Like, is it? Like, I know he's a big name and he came from Ohio State, but like, is it a big hire? He's been fine. Like, Oklahoma's defense never been good. Like I don't. It's fine. It's like it's not going to revolutionize this defense. It's not going to all of a suddenly make them super like the guys come back super talented or the transfers that are coming in all game breakers. Like they don't really have a defense. They don't really have an offensive line, or at least they're going to rely on some guys to take big steps, which is a big gamble. Like Caleb Williams is going to be under a lot of pressure early and often, and I know he's got that bailout in Jordan Addison. He's got it's a surefire top 10, top 15 pick in Jordan Addison, but like Caleb Williams struggled last year at some points on the road. Oklahoma State, he played okay, but obviously didn't come away with the win. Baylor, he was absolutely terrible. Like you put this guy up against some pretty good defenses on the road in a hostile environment. He hasn't really been that good in those situations. And yeah, he was a freshman, so you expect him to grow out of that, but like you still have to see him do it. Like he still has to prove that he's capable of it.
Is he the 2022 version of Spencer Rattler?
Oh, that would be so delicious.
I don't think so at all. But that's a narrative that would be fun. If he just comes out and is really struggling under the pressure. But hey, or can he not handle the bright lights of Hollywood coming from Norman? People,
it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, he has obviously have expectations and Norman, but it's a whole different ballgame. Like he actually has distractions now. It's not just like play football or go down to the local Norman saloon. Like you're popular in you're popular in Los Angeles. You're getting invited to nightclubs and all that kind of stuff. And obviously he's only 20. He's not 21 years old yet, but that doesn't really matter. Like they're going to be really good. Lincoln Riley is going to probably get him to a playoff at some point, and Caleb Williams is probably going to be a Heisman finalist or look like, not this year, but at some point in his tenure have a good chance to be one. But just expecting them to do it this year and flip a switch, it was the common thinking early on, and I think as time has gone on, people are starting to take a step back, with the exception of like the Homers and the Colin Cowherds of the world. Be like, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes on USC. Like they're going to be good. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, is there anything else that we need to say about this, or do we want to move on? All right, so
I'm good.
Well, spoiler alert, we're going to save Utah for a little bit later because they are one of the best bets. So let's jump ahead to interesting storylines in this conference. We'll go, let's say, Phil, start us off. Phil, couldn't decide between the two of you because I was going to go last year. But Phil, what are you most interested in outside of at least maybe those top two teams in the conference?
So what people might not know about me, but can probably gauge from my shirt, is I am a huge FCF guy. And so spotting the College of the Holy Cross Crusaders, who, if there's any bets ever this year that Holy Cross is available, take them every single time. The Patriot League is terrible, and Holy Cross is going to roll every single game. It's literally free money. But the storyline that I'm interested in is what Pac-12 team plays spoiler. Because, spoiler on my side, I don't think there's going to be a Pac-12 team making it to the college football playoff. I think there's going to be, some undefeated teams at some point, and they're going to lose in heartbreaking fashion. And so my storyline is, what team is going to do that? And so sticking along those FCS lines, I'm going to go with Washington State because they brought in just an absurdly statistically talented player at quarterback, Cam Ward from Incarnate Word. And so listen to these statistics that he put up last year: around 4,700 yards, 47 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And so he also it's not bad. He also brought his offensive coordinator with him. And so he's stepping into not like a brand new system. It's obviously going to be, hey, how does this translate from FCS to FBS? I mean, you don't put up that type of numbers. FCS is good football. It's not like he's going to be going against, outside of Utah, that many like elite defenses by any stretch. And so I think he's just going to put up some absurd numbers. So I think Washington State, for my storyline, is going to be a spoiler at some point. I think he's also like plus 15,000 to win the Heisman, which could be just like a fun one to throw out there. I don't think that's even going to be close. He's not going to get the attention, but it's going to be one of those things at the end of the year where it's like they're going through the statistical leaders of who's in the Heisman. They'll be like, yeah, this guy put up like 48 touchdowns and 6 picks, but he's not even close to being invited because he didn't play on a big stage. But
because he played at Washington State, they won 4 games.
So that's what I'm going with. Because again, I love points, I love overs, and I love a guy who can just sling the ball.
Sounds like a perfect quarterback to bet on in Pac-12 after dark overs.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I'm a little concerned. The thing I'm a little concerned with him is just size. He's a little fella, a very talented player. The passing numbers are a little bit inflated because the Southland is basically, when you think of like the Southland, it's basically what the Big 12 was when Baylor and West Virginia were playing those like 70-56 kind of games. But he's a very good quarterback. I like the Eric Morris hire. You mentioned the offensive coordinator. And it's interesting because that was a program that had so much turmoil last year with the whole Nick Rolovich vaccine situation. Jake Dickert is the interim head coach who then gets the full-time job after he really helped salvage whatever the hell last year was for that program. But, you know, the interim to full-time head coach thing is sometimes maybe not the best decision in the world, but after was really a chaotic year for them, some stability there. And, you know, chaos kind of reigns there because it's a place where chaos is kind of a little bit normal. I mean, you went from Mike Leach to Nick Rolovich to this. I mean, your some stability will be good there, but it is a really interesting thing to watch. Also, as a connoisseur of FCS football, I'm excited to see. I actually watched a lot of them play in the pandemic spring season, Incarnate Word. Not as much last year, but yeah, I mean, he's fun, and that was a fun offense. So it's interesting to see, like, Washington State's one of those teams where it feels kind of like, I guess probably because of when Mike Leach was there, that you want to see them kind of put up some points and throw the ball around the field a bit. So I'm excited about that one. Matt, what about you? What are your do you have any other Washington
He's also not, it's not like he's like a 6th-year senior. I think he's like a true junior. So it's not like they're like bringing in some like old head to come in. He's like, it's like still exactly. Got he's still got like both ACLs. He's not like coming in being wheeled in like some of these 6-year quarterbacks.
Yeah, and he's not an NFL guy, so it's not a 1 year. I mean, this will be a 2-year commitment kind of thing, which is, when you're trying to build a new system, certainly helpful.
Yeah.
I got nothing on this because you guys have the FCS market cornered, and I couldn't dream of contributing even more than you guys did. Other than, I guess what I will say is, I wish Mike Leach was back in the Pac-12 coaching, because there was just something about seeing Mike Leach at 11:30 coaching Washington State in a game with nobody there. It felt right. And like, he's fine at Mississippi State, but just doesn't like look right to me. I don't know. Just doesn't. I need him in a lesser of two conferences, coaching late night with teams that are putting up, games that are final scores of 58-49, something like that. That's what I need Mike Leach doing.
Totally understand. So what's your interesting storyline, Matt?
I'm staying in Southern California. The other team also going to the Big Ten, UCLA. Chip Kelly, I think it's year 4 or 5 for him. It's been enough time to get his guys in, and like we saw some flashes last year when they beat LSU. Like, when is it going to click for Chip and them? Because like, you got Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming back for what seems like his 10th year with the program and 5th year with Chip. Like, at some point that's got to start clicking, or else don't you have to, like, do you want to bring Chip Kelly to the Big Ten if you can't figure it out? Like, I feel like that's probably his runway here to see if he can get something figured out and go win a conference, or go come close to winning a conference, compete for a conference title. Like, you look at their schedule this year, kind of lines up okay for them. Their non-conference is nothing. It's Bowling Green, Alabama State, South Alabama. They have Utah at home. They have Washington at home. They have to go to Oregon, but like, I don't think any of us are particularly high on Oregon and Bo Nix this year. Like, they get UCLA, or you get USC at home, which I know it's not technically like a home game, but like, it's more of a new game, but you get that game at home. Like, most of their big games line up for them at home at the Rose Bowl this year. Like, they got to start doing it, and this is kind of the year to do it, or else I think you start having that, do we want to move forward with Chip Kelly conversation? So I'm of the belief that college football is better when UCLA is a better team, and I know they're not really going to be a playoff team anytime soon, but a 9-win, 8-win, 10-win type team, and they just haven't been able to do that under Chip. At least
I mean, you mentioned that non-conference. I mean, they have a awful non-conference. They start Pac-12 play at Colorado, who is very bad. Then Washington seems to be kind of a pivot point for a lot of teams this year, because they host Washington. If they win that game, they're 5-0, very likely 5-0 with Utah coming to town. Like, they play Utah and UCLA back to back, although they do have the bye week between those games before the road trip. So yeah, I mean, Zach Charbonnet, really good running back, had a really good year last year. So yeah, it kind of feels like a or get off the pot season for Chip.
Like,
they kind of surprised people, I think, a little bit last year with being a little bit better than they thought. It seemed like he was kind of hot seat-ish, and then they a little bit overachieved. But like you said, the schedule sets up pretty well for them to achieve early, and then maybe ride that.
Hold on for dear life late, maybe. But like, They should be 4-0. They really should be 4-0 headed into Washington, and that's gonna. I mean, that's never a tough place to go win, but like that's a game that's a winnable game for them. And then, like you said, you get the bye week before Utah. That sets up perfectly. You're probably not going to beat Utah, but if you're going to have the best chance you have is going to be getting them at home off a bye week, and you're going to have that chance. So I'm keeping an eye on them. I want Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be really good because he's like at his best. He's so much fun to watch, but like I don't know, they're not figuring it out. I hope they do.
I guess okay. So I left it open. Phil didn't jump in, so I guess I'll move.
No, I got nothing. Chip Kelly for me. Chip Kelly's a snooze fest for me. So that's it. That's all I got. He does nothing for me anymore.
You shouldn't his teams were so fun at Oregon. Like how did it
exactly.
He went to UCLA, he went to Southern California, with this high-powered offense, and they're somehow boring. Got there,
I was excited. Nothing has happened. So I'm just, I just put him in the drawer and just put him away. I don't even think about him anymore.
Everyone caught up to what he was doing, and he hasn't really been innovative since he left Oregon. So that's kind of where it is. Yeah. My interesting storyline, and it'll segue into my best bet as well, because it's a good way to produce a show. Arizona State, man. Consider Arizona State. If we're being honest and we're speaking strictly about the on-field production, I think we can say that the Herm Edwards thing hasn't been as bad as people expected it to be. People expected it to be a complete train wreck, and it hasn't been. They've been okay on the field. They have not achieved anything of note, but they haven't been the dumpster fire on the field that people thought they were going to be under Herm Edwards. However, off the field, it is a complete dumpster fire. In fact, an anonymous coach in the Athlon preview was quoted as saying it is the biggest dumpster fire in college football because of the looming NCAA situation that is waiting to drop the hammer at some point on them for all of the recruiting violations that previous assistants under Herm Edwards were committing and are now gone. Guys lost their jobs and Herm kept his job. Even though they were not bad last year, I think it was an 8-5 finish. This was a program that probably should have seen what was coming and tried to start over immediately. But instead, the Herm Edwards thing is going to continue for another year. And I don't know, I think it was the Fast and the Furious 2, the Ejectocito Cuz meme. I have a bit that I am rolling out this year in college football, and they're called Ejectocito teams. And they are teams where if things go bad, they're going to go bad very quickly, and teams might be best to just pull the plug, pull the ripcord, and let it go. And this Arizona State team, to me, is one of those teams where if things go bad, it might get really ugly for them this year. So segueing that into my not so off the wall bet, I'm going to go with the under on 5.5. There's even some 6s that you can get that are juicy unders. So I went ahead and I'm fine with that. They do have 2 easy non-conference games.
I'm still not.
Go ahead.
Sorry, my internet just caught there. You keep going. I got a Herm Edwards. I got a Herm Edwards comment that I'll store for a second.
Oh well, so they have 2 easy non-conference games off the top of my head. I think it's Northern Arizona and there's a MAC team in there or something. But they have to go to Oklahoma State. They start Pac-12 play with Utah and USC. And then we talked about Washington again. That Washington game before their bye week is massive. If they lose that game to a Washington team who's got 3 quarterbacks who could be decent under a coach, Kalen DeBoer, who came from Fresno State. Like if Washington is ascending and beats Arizona State, if Arizona State is 2-4 into their bye week with everything that is swirling over their heads as a program, I think this is a thing where you're going to see guys maybe just people are going to check out. They had 17 players enter the transfer portal this year, this past offseason. There's been so much movement. It's hard to project what's going to happen. I just see it going badly for them. So I'm fine going under what the expectation is because it feels to me like this is the end of this weird Herm Edwards experience.
Emory Jones is their quarterback.
Yeah, I think there's a situation where
Emory Jones is the quarterback.
Sorry, Phil, go ahead. Phil?
No, I think my internet's crapping out. I was just going to say I think with the Herm Edwards experiment, I'm not convinced that he thought that he was going there to give a motivational talk to the team and then accidentally signed a contract to be their head coach. I don't think he realized what he was signing up for.
It worked.
And suddenly he's there.
It wasn't as bad. Like, you're right though, Dan. It wasn't as bad as we thought it would be. Like, some people, I didn't think it would go terrible. Honestly, it's kind of how I thought it would go, just like a middling team. But like, some people you talked to thought it was one of the worst hires ever, and they were just going to be a god awful football team forever.
The CEO coach thing can work if you surround him with the right assistant coach. They just started cheating their asses off and got in trouble for it. And that was always going to be something that could happen. I mean, it's Arizona State. I'd expect no less. It's kind of like one of those programs that should exist in kind of the outlaw, chaotic, evil space. So, yeah, I mean, it hasn't been a bad product on the field. And this is one of those, by the way, this is going to be a win total where they either win 3 games or they win 8. This isn't going to be sweaty. This is not going to be a sweaty win total.
You're either losing it or winning it right away.
Lose it easily, and it's just like, oh, well, we're in October, and I lost that one. Okay, let's go ahead and mark that one as an L in the ledger. I really want to talk. I think Phil's bet is going to be one that I definitely want to dive deep into in a good way to kind of bookend it. So,
yeah, let's get mine over with because I don't have too much to talk about.
You're feeling an under here.
Yeah, we're feeling an under with Colorado and their win total. I had to do research to find digging 3.5 on FanDuel. It is the under 3.5 is minus 200. That's how confident FanDuel is and how many bets are coming in on the Colorado under 3.5. So I went and I sold that half a win, and I'm going to get it at 3. I think it's on. I forgot where I found it. I think it was DraftKings at minus 125. Like, we talk about UCLA's non-conference schedule being a cakewalk. Colorado is going to get buried in their non-conference schedule. They have TCU at home, who's not a bad team, but they're certainly better than Colorado. They're probably going to win that game. Air Force, they have to go to Air Force, who brings back like pretty much their entire offense. I think it's like 8 starters on both sides of the ball and even more contributors because offenses like that have like 20 guys that play. They bring back a lot from a really good team last year. Air Force probably wins that game because they're going to hold on to the ball for 50 of the 60 minutes. And then they go to Minnesota. Like, they're not winning that game at Minnesota. Minnesota's going to win that football game with Tanner Morgan in his 20th season. So they're probably 0-3 headed into conference play. They're going to lose to UCLA. Then they have Arizona's not going to be good, but like, Arizona seems to be a program that like knows they're bad, has a little bit of like momentum in it, like momentum going to it. And like, they just kind of want to win 2 or 3 games this year and they'll be feeling good about themselves. I don't think Colorado wins that game. Like, I think they start off the season 0-5, 0-6. Like, the back half of their schedule is absolutely brutal. They got Oregon, USC, Washington, Utah to close. So they're going to finish the season 0-4. Like, I see 4 winnable games for them on this schedule, the middle 4 at Arizona, Cal, Oregon State, Arizona State. And I don't see them being perfect in those 4. So yeah, I think they're going to be 3 or less.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting when you're just looking up and down this conference and you look at Arizona and you're like, maybe things aren't so bad there. Like, maybe Jed Fish can get them to be respectable at some point. Cause there's just like some bleak spots in the conference. We talked about Stanford. That's just kind of a bleak situation. Mm-hmm. Cal is weird. Justin Wilcox is a good coach, but there might not be a coach administration kind of tandem that is less aligned than what's happening at Cal with their administration, which just doesn't seem to care about the football program at all. And a coach who's a pretty good coach. So Cal is kind of bleak. And then you just mentioned, Colorado, which is a bummer. Like, Colorado is one of those
Colorado
teams
should be awesome.
Good.
The uniforms, the stadium, the mascot, the logo, the color scheme, the locker room is all like everything about Colorado should be awesome.
Yeah. They
just suck, and it's sad.
They should also
Arizona State, Colorado has a real good chance if things go as badly as you think they might for Arizona State. That could be one hell of a Pac-12 toilet bowl. I'm looking forward to it because if there's one thing I love more than college football, it's bad college football. That's my favorite thing in the world.
Phil,
how's our internet doing over there? We good?
How are we doing on the?
I think I'm coming back a little bit. I mean, again, on Colorado, it's just kind of like they stink.
Yep. End of sentence.
End of sentence. All right, Phil.
Let's get to someone that doesn't stink.
Someone that doesn't stink. Phil, you have a Pac-12 champion.
So I'm going Utah plus 250 to win the conference. And for me, this is kind of like, what am I missing here? They returned they're one of 25 teams in college football to return their starting quarterback, their head coach, and both coordinators. And they were a very good team. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, what am I missing here? And then from a quarterback perspective, I'm a big fan of Cameron Rising. I was talking to Matt about this morning, but I gave Sean Clifford some shit yesterday for looking like an evening manager at Radio Shack with his goatee. Mm-hmm. But if you look at Cameron Rising's goatee, it is like the suave goatee of the throwback Buccaneers.
Yeah, he's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers logo from the 70s.
Exactly, and that's like my favorite logo in sports.
Tom Brady. Sorry, just had to get that out there. Popped in my head. Didn't mean to cut you off.
It makes sense. So he's someone who I'm high on. If you go watch him, he's someone who's not fast, but just puts up like ridiculous rushing like attempts and yards. It just like doesn't really make sense, where it just looks like everyone else is kind of moving in the mud while he's going. So I'm buying into what he's doing. I really like their defense. They're bringing it back a bunch of production on offense, and I'm kind of like, show me who's going to beat them. Unless, again, we talked about USC. I don't think USC running into a really good defense and a good offense, it's not a good matchup for USC. It's not really a good matchup for anybody in the Pac-12. So I see them kind of as the clear runaway favorite. So for me, this is you don't want to say the obvious bet here, but for me, this is the obvious bet.
I love the pick. We talked about, I've been doing on Tuesdays on Brown Bag Bets when I'm on. I've started doing some college football like futures and stuff. And the first one I gave out was Utah over 9.5 wins. Utah win the Pac-12 at plus 300. It's now down to plus 250. You're not missing anything. Like the only thing that's quote unquote missing is that USC is USC and they're a popular big brand, so they're taking in a lot of bets. If USC was Colorado, like Utah would be the runaway favorite to, like, they'd be a plus 110 favorite to win the Pac-12. I think they would be that heavy of a favorite. They have everything going for them. I know we said yesterday when we were talking like bowl games are just bowl games and you can't take too much from it, but like they were right there with Ohio State till the end. They kind of punched them in the mouth, beat them up a little bit. Then Ohio State's talent kind of took over with some fluky things at the end, but like they're a really good football team and they bring back so much continuity. And that's when you have talent and the continuity to go with it in college football. That's a really, really valuable thing. And I was considering making it my Matt's not so off the wall bet to rip off Dan's shtick there. But Utah to make the playoff is plus 425, I think. And do I think they're going to make the playoff? Probably not. But over 4-1, who is that last team? I don't know. No one's really like. There's not there's two teams that or three teams that probably stick out. Alabama, Ohio State, probably Georgia, like we talked about yesterday. But like the back half of the playoff is going to be wide open and up for grabs. And if Utah is a one-loss team with a tough luck loss to, I don't know, Florida or someone like that early on in the season in the swamp, like they're looking pretty good.
I like Utah over Clemson. Personally, like if you're looking for that fourth spot, if I'm doing a coin flip, personally, I like Utah over Clemson. I'm not buying Clemson this year.
Clemson's defense is not Georgia's defense from last year, but their defense is going to be incredible. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, if you're saying okay, pick someone to win the Pac-12, I'm picking Utah as well. Like sure. So I'll be the contrarian here for a couple of reasons. So you're saying why is this not the most obvious thing? Okay, there's two things that you have to consider, and this is maybe just one thing that people watching this might not know. There are no divisions anymore in terms of the Pac-12 championship game this year. So
I don't like that.
Top two teams with winning percentage will play for the Pac-12 championship game. Now we saw that happen last year where Utah kicked the shit out of Oregon and then they kicked the shit out of Oregon again. But there's a scenario where they could beat USC at home. I mean, Utah's 20-2 at home since the start of 2018. So it's impossible to win there. And that's why I think like they're going to win that game against USC in Salt Lake City. But is there a possibility, okay, USC continues to get better, they play a rematch on a neutral field in Vegas and they win that game? Sure. I'm also not going to discount Oregon. And I know you guys want to like downplay Bo Nix, and that's fine. I mean, we talk about change of scenery mattering. Moving out of the SEC into the Pac-12 can only help a quarterback, I think, if we're being realistic, if we're being honest. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a huge Bo Nix guy. That's fine. I think another thing that you have to consider with Oregon, this is Oregon's conference road schedule. Washington State, Arizona, Cal, Colorado, Oregon State. Like, I don't know that you could ask for a better conference road schedule. They get Stanford at home. They get UCLA at home. They get Washington and Utah. They don't play USC. So another thing is like, say what you will about Mario Cristobal as a head coach. I'm not a fan of how he coaches in game. this is a team that has recruited at the highest level of this conference by a pretty wide margin because Clay Helton just wasn't doing his job at USC. Yeah. So top to bottom, the roster at Oregon is probably the most talented in the conference. There are a lot of questions. Bo Nix is one of them. Hiring a head coach who has no head coaching experience, who has no ties to the Pacific Northwest, and Dan Lanning, you have no idea what to expect from Oregon this year, but I wouldn't just necessarily discount them. I think the best case scenario, though, for Oregon, if you kind of like them, is get the shit kicked out of them by Georgia, lose a close game to BYU, suddenly people start doubting them, and then you remember, oh yeah, neither of those games matter. I can still bet them to win. They're still 0-0 in the Pac-12, and maybe there'll be value on them. And they were like plus, I don't even remember what the number was, so maybe you wait and see and hope they lose those games and then get things going. But yeah, Utah, best team in the conference in my opinion, the team that's going to win the Pac-12 in my opinion if I had to pick one. I'm just not discounting Oregon, and then a Utah USC Pac-12 championship game rematch would be so fascinating. I kind of hope it happens, and I kind of hope USC gets the shit kicked out of them twice.
That would be fun. And just a
as I wear my USC t-shirt, by the way.
I find it kind of funny that Bo Nix is getting out of the SEC, and then his first game's on the road in Athens. Just to get the
Although, can you imagine? This has come up in our deep dive DJ Discord. Can you imagine the meltdown at Auburn if Bo Nix beats Georgia in week 1?
Yeah.
Like,
it will never happen, but I would love so much to see that happen. That would be SEC
happen,
Twitter would explode.
Yeah, it would be the funniest.
Very unlikely to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, Matt and I talked about, I think the only way that happens if not just a change of scenery, but a change of name. So I think he's got to get rid of his SEC name. And so if Bo Nix comes and goes with this middle name, Chapman Nix or Chappie Nix, or as Matt dubbed earlier, Matt, you can go ahead.
Bo, B-E-A-U. That's much more Cali West Coast than Bo. I think that gives them a better chance to win the ball game. But Dan, those are fair points on Oregon, and I probably do agree with you. They are a talented roster because Mario Cristobal did recruit his ass off. I'm just skeptical about the head coach and the quarterback because
I don't disagree. But I
know, and I'm not saying I know you're kind of more not just playing contrarian, but like a little bit just presenting the opposite side.
Yeah.
And I think you make very valid points. And I guess just going back to kind of where I'm at with them is if you're uncertain about the head coach and you're uncertain about the quarterback headed into a college football season, it's really hard to be excited about a team. But I will say, if what you said happens, say they go get destroyed by Georgia, there's no shame in that. And then they, go play a BYU team who's by all means going to be a pretty tough team this year and lose a tough one. And you kind of like what you see in that one. Going and grabbing Oregon's conference championship future there isn't bad. I think that's actually a pretty smart, savvy bet. I don't know. Dan Lanning very well might be a good head coach and he might work out, but it just seemed like what we've seen so many times in college football and even pro football. Like, oh, we just went and hired Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator, or we just went and hired a Saban disciple, or I know Kirby Smart obviously was that and worked out, but he was there forever and finally worked out. Like those guys don't usually tend to work out, especially not on their first go around. Like Lane Kiffin obviously is having some success later on and it's like third try, but just it's waiting for because their head coach and their quarterback are at best the coin flip for me.
One thing, and this will help set us up and as a transition for tomorrow's Big 12 preview. One thing about Utah though that I'm also interested in is replacing Britton Covey, because Britton Covey was a special teams threat, their best skill position guy on offense. So like Utah's not a program where you can just lose a guy who did a whole hell of a lot for you on offense and then it's just a seamless thing. There's a lot of talent. They're going to be physical and all that. Just not something that we're going to glance over. And my final thought before we go, because we didn't mention this team at all, and I just want to mention this real quick before we go. I think Oregon State should fire their athletic director, whoever it was who decided they should open the season playing Boise State at home, Fresno State on the road, and then hosting Montana State before they play USC and Utah. Like, that schedule sucks, man. Like, why?
Really wish I checked the Oregon State schedule. That under seems pretty good.
Why would you do that to yourself? Like, even Montana State's probably the third or fourth best team in FCS. So it's not like that's going to be one that you're going to go in and roll over the team that you're playing there. Like, dude, don't schedule Boise State. Don't go play at Fresno. Like, why play at Fresno State? Why?
When were these games made? Like, was Oregon State like possibly like 6 or 7 years ago when they like were at a point when they were kind of okay, and maybe they thought like it was a good idea and didn't think they'd kind of progress to being bad.
Like,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
it's a fair point.
It's fair point. 10 years is not a good idea. It's always a bad idea.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's
my one last final thought I forgot because this literally broke while we were talking. Not that it's a surprising thing, but I'm very excited. Michael Penix Jr. named the starting quarterback at Washington. I know you guys are Notre Dame fans. Indiana is my Big Ten school of choice because my best friend went to Indiana. That kid was awesome. Hopefully he's healthy, and hopefully Kalen DeBoer can get him moving in the right direction, and that can be a thing this year. So go Michael Penix. Hope you have some success this year. That's it. I'm tapped out there. I'm done.
He's an easy kid. He's an easy kid to root for, and we'll always have the dive. Did he actually get in?
Yes,
he was in my book.
In my book too.
It was a win against Penn State, so yes, it's a win.
And of course, there's just no better way to wrap up a Pac-12 conference preview than talking about a play from the Big Ten 3 years ago. But that is how we did it. So we will be back next time with a Big 12 preview, and then we're going to wrap things up on Friday with the ACC. And before you know it, it'll be next Tuesday, and we'll be previewing week 1 of college football. We were not going to do a week 0 preview. That's going to be Dan and I will have brown bag bets on Friday, so we'll do a little bit of talking about it there. But we will come at you Tuesday with a little week 0 recap, week 1 preview, and then Thursday with some picks, predictions, all that good stuff for week 1. But until next time, when we come back with Big 12, have a good day and go get some college football bets in.